probably most of you are Gabriel related, and Gabriel's brother Abraham is who I descend from. So, how many are Gabriel related, do you know? Yeah. How many are Abraham related? 1, 2. My first cousin Charlotte, Kenny over here, and I. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show, let's go back. That's my proposal for talking about things today. The difference in spelling came up in my research. The death of Mathias, which is some people accept and other people haven't, so I'm going to attempt to prove why Mathias is not our ancestor. David Heatwole's signed documents, and David A. Heatwole, for David Abraham Heatwole, was Abraham's son, and he was my great-grandfather. And then the David S. controversy. Somehow or other, when I was up on the Brother Mennonite on the hill at Crossroads, I noticed the last time I was down here that all of a sudden our ancestor, David the Cobbler, had a middle initial S in all his records. And I wanted to know where that came from. Well, I was told where it came from, and now I'm going to try to prove that that was incorrect as well. So that's the gist of things today. And for many, many years, my dad, who was a historian, his book collection is at EMU in the archives. We all believe that Mathias was our ancestor. My great-grandfather, David A., wrote the first history in 1882. Mathias was in a record. It was printed in a book. Whoops, 30,000 names that came into Philadelphia now. And Mathias was the only equal name in any printed record at that time. So guess what? He became our ancestor because he was the only one. So then, as we go along, that says that there from point H, you see. CJ was a great uncle to me. David A. was my great-grandfather. He imported wine. I first imported wine when I was still, believing about Mathias and the country, city of Stieg, Germany. These are cherished bottles. A couple of people that were close to me here and helped me over the years have gotten ones of these today. But I found a wine distributor in Chicago, and I told him about this. Oh, he says, I know that winery, those Huthwohls in Germany. I said, well, can you import? Yes. And so he imported a bunch, and I bought like 30 bottles from him. And this is the second last one. I had one at home, and this is the second last one. I've given them away, traded them. I got a book up there from Norman Weiner and Emmett Bittinger and David Rose, their book on reparations. David wanted that wine bottle so bad, he traded me the first edition book for one of the bottles. So I don't know where that is now that he's passed on. I imported the wine, and then after many years, I was running out because I was passing it out to people and relatives. And these were the last 5 bottles that I had, kept one at home. The wine is no longer available under the name Huthwohl. A company called Junghof, Junghof, bought the Huthwohl label from Stieg and hyphenated it. So this one says Weingut Junghof Huthwohl, and now the Huthwohl name is gone completely. So you can't get Huthwohl wine anymore from Germany. So items on this table at this corner, and all those booklets from Pennsylvania Mennonite Heritage over there are free. Please take what you need. Between today and tomorrow, I'm going to have them taken, and they're not going back to Wisconsin with me. Any questions on what's up here? Daniel Huthwohl would be my father. He was born in 1894, my father. Not my grandfather, not my great-grandfather. My father was born in 1894, Mom in 1896, Nellie Brunk. And I was born when they were in their mid-40s. So you see why I'm kind of late. I'm probably the oldest person in the room, I don't know. I'm going to be 84 in October. Anybody older than that? A little bit more up there. I'll just let you pause to read it on your own. If you have a question, raise your hand anytime you want to. It's interesting, in my research, I found there are other Hebrews that are alive in America. You know, there's ones that came into the port of Baltimore. People have contacted me when they saw my first article that was put on the internet. He always pronounced his name Huthwohl. Never knew anything about an umlaut. Never knew anything about any other Hebrews until he saw that article online. And then I lost contact with him. He told me his mother lived in Connecticut, and he was a race car driver, and eventually moved to Florida because he was getting into cars and racing, you know. And I just lost contact with him. Under the new lineage at the bottom, the Huthwohl story, some of that's up here. I have some of those to give away. I can make arrangements to mail copies to you if we're running low here. This is the information about we are not alone. And then the bottom list is things that I have. Some which are up here, but a lot are already spoken for in people's places. David A. Huthwohl did the first Huthwohl history in 1882. And then it was his son, C.J., or Cornelius James, who did the book in 1907. And then the big, thick Huthwohl history came out with John and others that put that together. I believe Enos Huthwohl and others helped with that. The Abraham line in that book was done by yours truly. A little history of the presenter here today. When you get in the last paragraph, it says, my father discovered the documents in Philadelphia. I went to Philadelphia. I had to backtrack on a lot of my dad's information because he wrote about things, but he didn't say where they were from. This is one of the things he did give a reference to, the documents in Philadelphia. And I will show you copies of that in person, hard copies up here, and copies on the screen shortly. If I'm clicking too fast, just let me know. I kind of try to skim with it in my mind as you're doing it. I see some ladies copying all my stuff up here. It's okay. So I have copies of those Huthwohl story booklets up here on the counter. I can give some of those away. I'm not going to leave this one up here, but if you'll just skim where the things are underlined, my attempt is to prove that the ancestor, who was not Mathias, came from Kriegsheim, Germany. Kriegsheim, Monsheim, and Worms, Germany was an area of Mennonites. And as we go through other things, you'll see that Valentine Huthwohl was one of the earliest ancestors from that area. there'll be some documentation to that effect. Somebody give me a sign that it's okay to move forward or wait. I see people writing. When the program's over, I'm available to redo these if people want to see certain ones over again. And the reason I'm here, one of the reasons, is to provide the data that confirm my beliefs about Mathias not being our ancestor and who took his place. Listing sources rather than just talking about it. Now this is an important source. This is by the Mass Company in Pennsylvania. Palatine Mennonite census lists. And look at all the Heatwoles at the bottom of the second column and going up into the third column. That's the index. But if you look at all the other names, you might find your family name there somewhere. These are all the Mennonites in that part of Germany at that time. This is Triegsheim, pictures taken by my sister and brother-in-law in their travels. And now we get to Jewel Euler. Would you identify yourself, please? Back here. Her family, you stand up and say what this was.
Oh, my parents...
Stand up and be heard.
My parents are Willard and Melody Huthwohl, and they were in Germany in 1980.
Do you want her to come to the mic?
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you come to the mic? This is a really important document, and it's all in German, and she sent me copies of it. Then I sent my copies to Amos P. Hoover in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, who translates and transcribes German all in one step. And his comments you'll see are here, but she gets to tell you what it is.
I did not anticipate.
Right here.
I did not anticipate this.
Just briefly, what
Yes,
it is.
they actually saw, they were in Germany in 1983 on a tour, and were in a hotel, and a woman walked into the cafeteria restaurant of the hotel and said, "I understand there are some Heatwoles here. Would you please identify yourself?"
Any Heatwole history people here?
So she gave my dad this document. That's okay. Delineating her ancestry. And she's Hannah Lori Kipp, which is somewhere down.
Well, we'll show
Yeah.
it on the screen. Okay.
You'll show it on the
Yeah.
screen.
Yep.
And so they tried to see how they were related. She was a Heatwole married to a Kipp. Their family still owns hotels in Germany, Switzerland. And it just sat in his study until after he died. I got his papers and I thought, oh, I bet Franklin would like this. So I sent them to him last winter and he had them translated, and now you
We'll
will
see some
tell
of the
us.
comments on the screen as we go here.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I circled, then Amos wrote on the side what they were. Like landwork up there, that was a term that showed up under people's names.
You get back to the...
Landwork, as you can see, according to Amos, meant an agriculturalist who was a little bit higher than a bower or just a common farmer, see? So that was a more wealthier landed person if you had the title landlord. She and I would have never known what that term meant, except that Amos Hoover knew what it meant. So that paragraph up there is this translated. And I don't know that we need to go over all this, but the bottom paragraph is important. All the Heatwoles were, what does it say? Anabaptists, in addition to agriculturalists. And that's an important statement, because Mathias, as we'll find out, was from a Reformed background, arrived in America a widower, married a Lutheran woman in Philadelphia, gave birth to a baby a year later. The new wife's name was Schaefer. That has never been in any Heatwole history up until this time. They had a baby together, Mary something, we'll see it in the record, I forget all these facts sometimes. And that baby was baptized as an infant. Does that sound Mennonite to you? Infant baptism, that's a no-no, isn't it? So anyhow, a lot of proof about why Mathias is not our Mennonite ancestor. So, Jewel Yoder has an original here, so you can look at that later, or I can put this stuff back up. Family tree of the Heatwoles, that's what that stem, Toffer, etc. means up there in German. And Amos's address is in the lower right corner if anybody ever needs to contact Amos Hoover with a German document. It really takes studying to do this. This document is quite replete, but again, we don't have a direct connection with these Heatwoles to our family tree yet. I haven't found that connection, but it's new Heatwole material. So we'll come back to that. This is quite extensive. Okay, now to the most important thing today. This is from a book by Donna Irish, not the one you see at the top, but in Donna Irish's book, she writes about the German script. You see, a P and an S are sometimes written in a way that they sound alike. A B and a P. The example I give is my sister-in-law's mother-in-law was a Balmer, B-A-L-M-E-R in Pennsylvania. But she's also listed under Palmer with a P. See, these people that spoke German would go to a judge or something, or somebody that had to write a record or something, and they would say Palmer. And that person had to decide whether that was a P sound or a B sound. And since they were writing the record, what they put down became the record. You know? So, go to the ST. This is the important part. In certain hands, ST in the old German script might look like, guess what? An H. I was in the Rockford, Illinois library. Back in the day, when you searched records, you went to the index of a book, and you looked at all the H's. No Heatwoles. Next book, no Heatwoles. No Heatwoles. Over and over and over. No records of Heatwoles. I saw this admonition. I went to those same books, and I started looking under ST, IT, WOHL, and other spellings. Guess what? Early records of the First Reformed Church, Philadelphia. Look down in the corner there. Mathias what? Stitwold. Widower from Stieg, near Bacharach. But he's married Mary Magdalena Schaefer. Over here it tells you this is a marriage record. Mary Magdalena Schaefer. Her name was never in any prior Heatwole spot. She was Lutheran, and they married on April of 1749. Now, the record says he arrived in 1748. He's remarried, he arrived a widower, he's remarrying a Lutheran woman in 1749. Here's another record. Anna Maria, daughter of Mathias, not Heatwole, but Huthwohl. Okay? Anna Maria Magdalena Schaefer, born June 11th, 1750, I think it says, right? Baptized July 8th, 1750. Again, not Mennonite history. So then we go to Pennsylvania births. See, I started backtracking. All these records where I was always looking for H. Heatwole instead of ST. Heatwole. Well, here's another one. H-I-T, Anna Maria, father Mathias, mother Maria M. Schaefer in parentheses. Record of Pennsylvania marriages prior to 1810. Another one.
This will make it easier for you.
Okay, sorry. This is another one of the same records, but this is from a record in 1880. So they were still producing, by 1880 they got it with an H. You see that? The other records were earlier. This is a line weaver. We have some line weaver relatives here, but down further is Catherine Schaefer. I just picked out some other things that might relate, maybe not. Way up at the top is our Huthwohl again in this record. This is a Donna Irish record that had that preface about the ST and the H, you see. That's her name, Donna Irish. And of course, this is telling you who the minister is in the case of these records. And in her record is Mathias Huthwohl, Mary Magdalena Schaefer, daughter Anna Maria with the dates, and even the sponsors at the baptism. And here's a record that has Mathias Heatwole and Anna Magdalena. Apparently, I can't quite tell whether this is their daughter or that they are standing sponsor to a daughter of some other person. But anyhow, you got Mathias Heatwole in the record. And I want you to look at the H. That H is written. Of course, somebody else wrote this record, not Mathias. More of the same. Now, Genealogy is an organization within, I believe, the Mennonite, larger Mennonite picture. I forget what the GAMEO stands for. Anybody know what that is? Dale, do you know? Something about Mennonite, other. What?
Global Anabaptist.
Yeah, Global.
Encyclopedia Online.
Okay, Encyclopedia Online. They had me write this article when I was talking to them. And so, again, I can put this back up later instead of having y'all read it now. But at the end of that article, then, I put in our lineage, the new lineage, starting with Valentine in the 1600s. And there were other Valentines and lots of other people. And then his son David and another son David, and that David's son Jacob is the ancestor, along with Richard Warren Davis, the Mormon guy who does Mennonite history. He and I agree that Jacob is the ancestor who came to Lancaster County in around 1770 or so. It is the person who replaces Mathias as the parents of John, Anna, Mary, David the cobbler, and our ancestor down here, and Jacob, who went into West Virginia and places like that. John was a blacksmith in Lancaster County and died in the mid-1790s. Anna married Peter Bowman, who migrated to this area, the brother minister. Anna married Weaver. Excuse me, I got that wrong. Samuel Weaver. She's buried in the Littlefield Cemetery in Lancaster County, dying in 1808. And she and her husband were the parents of Samuel Weaver, who came to the valley here and married the Rhodes lady, and whose house is now up on the hill next to the cobbler shop. That Samuel's mother was Anna Huthwohl in Lancaster County. And Anna Huthwohl, as you can see, is the sister of David, who came here. Or the David, cobbler David. And Samuel Weaver, from here, Samuel Weaver married a Rhodes. His mother was, like I said, Anna Huthwohl, sister to David Huthwohl, who came here. And this Jacob then, he moved to West Virginia. All right, here's the document that some people have been waiting for me to show. This is the certified copy of Mathias's, as you can see, letters of administration. I have those two blue copies with me up here. So if you don't believe what's on the screen, you can look at the real thing. And this was in Philadelphia. My father had a reference to this document sometime probably in the 1940s. While I was still a youngster, born in 1940, so I wasn't paying attention to any of this. He was in Philadelphia. He checked out these documents. Of course, back then, there weren't copy machines or anything, so he copied it by hand in cursive, the document. So I have that document. And it's good I do, because between the time they took this document out of a box from 1752 and handed it to me, the document, not a copy of it, the document, was laying in my hands. Well, I wanted a copy of it, and they have to make the copy, of course, handle the document carefully. So to get a certified copy, they had to end up mailing it to me. And between the time that I saw it and the time that they mailed me a copy, things were missing from the page. Paper had crumbled, you see. So fortunately, I have my dad's cursive longhand version of it from many years back, where all that was present. And it was present when I was looking at it, but when it arrived to me, it wasn't there anymore. There, you can see the missing part. That's what that document looked like. The strange thing about all this is, my father had to sign a document when he was checking on this document, and between the time he checked on it and the time I checked on it, nobody else had signed for that document. It gives me goosebumps to talk about that, He was the only other person back in the 50s or late 40s who had seen this document, and then I came along and asked for it. Here's his inventory. So you can see that he came from Stieg, Mathias did, and had a background in winemaking and caskets and barrels and things, that wine would be stored or aged in, that type of thing. So if you look near the bottom, you see a lot of tools. That would be woodworking tools, probably. Had something of that kind of a background. Way up at the top is a word that I wrote, chest, to show you that the old script, C-H-E-S-S. See, the first S is made like what we call a figure F, and then the second S is a S like we would use. See, you had to learn these things about German script, and Amos Hoover has helped me with a lot of that over time. And I just use that with examples to show you how script is different. So other sources for our family, the 1790 census. So if you're looking up there, I think it says Earl Township, and you come down and there's a David. And then, let's see, on the next page is Lampeter Township, and I believe that's John. I can't read it from here. Does that need to be focused a little bit, do you think? I'm gonna check the Yeah, you were in the right spot. That's about as best as I can make it cover. Our David, eventually moved to Franklin County, Pennsylvania. And the things I've done over my lifetime is before the internet, you couldn't access these records. You had to go there. So I went to Williamsport, Pennsylvania for records, and I went to Chambersburg. And David moved to this area called Guilford Hills. And here's Stauffer's town. Stauffer came from Lancaster County, a wealthy man, built several different kinds of mills and that. At about the same time that Mathias, our David moved to Franklin County. So that's the area just east of Chambersburg where David bought land and then sold land and moved here. Look at the price he purchased it for and the price he sold it a few years later for. However, we don't know if there was inflation. So these are the things I've done over my career. Physically visited these sites and picked up the records. Here's an example of his purchase in Franklin County. And again, David Huthwohl is written there, but that's written by the person writing the will, not our David. And it tells you who the land was near and that type of thing. And then what's important is this document where he sold the land. And look at his signature. David Huthwohl, Huthwohl. That's one of the big differences between Mathias, Huthwohl, no H in the middle, see? All the people from Kriegsheim, all the Mennonite census records, everything have people with the TH in it. Huthwohl. And we had Magdalena, and notice his wife, she made her mark. So she was not a literate person. Somebody else signed, and you can see the difference in the hand. David signed in his old German script, and somebody spelled Magdalene Huthwohl in sort of an English cursive. And of course, he signed his name again at the bottom. So his version of the signature plays a part in this same controversy about David S. This is a Bible that's supposedly David Huthwohl's Bible. It's hard to see there. Now, my great-grandfather was David A. Huthwohl. Okay? His A, you and I could look at that, and perhaps if you didn't know his name was David A., you might think it's David S. Huthwohl. Now back, here's David's signature again from that other document, you see? And that signature has no relationship to this signature. In a Bible that came from the Bank Church, he changed for a copy of the 1820 from the Bank, what does it say? Bank what? Yeah, okay, Bank something church, Bank Mennonite Church, yeah, I see, Mennonite, Rockingham County. And here's where I get into the controversy of whether our David, the cobbler David, had an S or not for his middle initial. If you look at that, do you see an S or do you see an A? See, I'm contending that the Bible that has this signature is David A. Huthwohl's Bible, not cobbler David Huthwohl's Bible. And therefore this S is not really cobbler David's middle initial. It's the A that is David A. Huthwohl. Now, David A. Huthwohl, if you go to EMU in the David A. Huthwohl file, he has an extensive file. He was an executor of Peter estate. He was the executor of many people's businesses and things like that. He started that Fence Corner Society that's so famous down here now. And so we have, what I did over to the right, I blocked out all the information except that middle initial. Then I added in what would be on that page, telling that he's an executor of John Eversole's estate, etc., etc. But I still kept off his name at the top, and then I put his name in. It's David S. Heatwole. No, it's David A. Heatwole, my great-grandfather, who was the executor of this estate. Okay? And so I'm attempting to prove that that middle initial that appears in a Bible is not, that Bible is not David, Coward David's Bible, it's David A. Heatwole's Bible. And this is his signature again, it is on an earlier document. And Marlon Hagee in the back used this in his booklet when he toured down here. This is the first reference to Magdalena in any primary record, where somebody signed her name when she put an X on that one document. Family history says it was Magdalena and all that. So I believe this is a Bible that's in my dad's collection, as it says, DRH, Daniel R. Heatwole, collection at EMU. And his daughter was Franica, who married Michael Hildebrand in Augusta County. And some of those Hildebrands married other Heatwoles back in the valley here in later generations. And that this is the one that was exchanged for the copy at the Bank Church. And I'm showing that not because of Francis, but because of David Heatwole's signature in 1833 is still the old German script. It's not anglicized American English yet. And so having his name in American script in a Bible in the 1830s doesn't make sense. And back to David A., another one of his signatures, just to show how different he wrote his middle initial at times. That's the enlargement of that previous document. Okay. This is Jacob Heatwole, his brother, David's brother. This is my dad telling about his collection. He collected a lot of things in Virginia, and he had a big collection of Abraham Lincoln things. And some Lincolns were prominent people in the valley here for a while. And you see his birth date, 1894. So if you didn't believe me, there it is. And this is some of his bookcases and his picture that's at EMU in the archives. And there's about 2 more bookcases like that in the collection. And I believe we're getting to the story that my dad wrote about. He made up a story about the Lincolns coming to America, coming into New England, coming into Pennsylvania, succeeding generations in New Jersey, coming here into the valley. You know that Abraham Lincoln's grandfather was born his father was born here in Rockingham County, Abraham Lincoln's father. So he follows that whole family line to when Abe becomes president. And he ties it together with the fact that when they came from England, they carried a rose plant with them. And they always dug up that rose and took it with them wherever they went, or shooting pieces of that, rose went with them and they'd propagate new ones. But when they left Virginia to go to, Kentucky or Tennessee, they didn't have room for all the things they were going to take, and they left the rose behind. That's what this story is about. And that's what put in the hex, so to speak, why Abraham Lincoln eventually was assassinated because he didn't keep up the family tradition of moving this rose with them. Now, I have a copy of that, so I can provide copies for anybody that wants copies. This is the Huthwohl history, Huthwohl name that my dad had painted by Clyde Stacks. He was a industrial arts teacher at Milton Hershey School in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and they were on the same bowling team and good friends, and so he got him to paint. Now notice Huthwohl is spelled the way of Steve rather than Kriegheim, because back then we didn't know all this that I know now. And it was painted on a tray like this, which my nephew now has in Pensacola. He's taking over. He's inheriting a lot of this stuff. And here is up on the hill, David Huthwohl's cobbler shop. I took this one as just the foundation. Of course, now the shop is on there. And the log house is Samuel Weaver, son of Samuel and Anna Huthwohl Weber, who was at that time in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. So they were uncle and nephew to each other. Now, back some years ago, I went into the Blosser Cemetery and I made tombstone rubbings. To give you a clue here, that's quilt batting, a lighter weight quilt batting, a couple of bungee cords and big rubber bands to hold it on the face. I used a carpenter's crayon, which is sort of hexagonal in shape. Take all the paper off to rub, to do some good rubbing. And those things are free for the taking by the historical group. Here's David. See? That's that rubbing that you see in the picture, that I did that day. So I have David and Magdalene and a couple of little babies that were born to these people. Those are not going back to Wisconsin, so. You know, my nephew in Pensacola, he has his copies of things, you know. So, just to let you know that they get to be cleaned by somebody. Some other pictures of importance, you know. In recent years, I tried to find this cemetery, the old Shank Cemetery, I think it's called, on Garber's Church Road, kind of across from Crossroads. And I could not find it. You know, well, guess why? I didn't find this in a while. It's a housing development. It's in the middle of a housing development now.
It's inside the housing development, and
Yeah.
you can get to it.
Yeah,
I have done that.
yeah. So I've been there again more recently, as you can see here. The old Weaver Church Cemetery, also known as the Shank Cemetery. That's my wife hiding under the umbrella. And you see the big houses in the background. It's in the middle. It took me quite a while to figure out why I couldn't find it from looking at it like that to looking at it like this. Another couple of pictures that I think are sort of historical. This is Lewis Martin's harness shop. I don't know how he finds anything in there, but that was, this is a very unusual little cabinet. You see, all the drawers are pie-shaped, and they go into that drawer area there. At the Huthwohl House on Pond View, north of Mount Clinton, or I would say west of Mount Clinton, on Pond View Drive, is a house where my grandfather lived, Daniel Franklin Huthwohl. And the people who did the plastering and some repairing in that house, in the basement, they put fresh plaster on the wall, and then they all signed their names as to the people. So there's a Kenny there, Charlotte, you see that? She married a Kenny. We have no idea if that's a relation to her or not. Now, if you go there, in recent years when I was there, that's all plastered over and gone. You can't see that anymore. So that's a historical record that I happen to get. Minnie Carr invited my wife and I into her house when she was still living, and she showed us the Samuel Elizabeth Rhodes Weaver, what do you call this? Hanging? There's a name for that.
Sampler.
A sampler, yeah, okay, sampler, good, thank you. And so that's the one that has the family's names by initials in some cases. And I thought this was at EMU, but didn't somebody in the last day or two tell me they thought it was in your collection here, or not?
I don't think that.
So I think it's at EMU now. Of course, looking across from up above the Blosser Cemetery, here's the David Huthwohl cobbler shop area. David Huthwohl's original farm plot. This is a trailer that Ackley Burkholder lived in, and that was their cobbler shop was there, and then that house with the A-frame was their main house that they built. They didn't live forever in the cobbler shop, and that's all gone now. That's a housing development. Ackley died. His wife, who he was separated from, then had the property. It was her property. And they sold that off. The barn, the house, everything is all gone. And it's a huge Cobbler Valley housing development now. $300,000 and up, the homes are. And I was in that area. Even I believe the trailer clerk you see way in the back is gone. It's all brand new houses, streets that aren't finished yet. And according to a gentleman in the back here, a $300,000 home is on the less expensive side of new homes in the area. Any questions on this picture? I took that from above the Blosser Cemetery on Sunny Slope Road.
Fred, who built the house?
Well, it would have been David's house. He would have lived in that house. That's where their family grew up. They didn't grow up in that little cobbler shop.
Yeah.
That was the first thing they built when they got there. But if you had been to that house, I have wallpaper from in that house up there that I saved and put in a folder. The foundation of that house was limestone that looked exactly like the limestone that was the base for the cobbler shop. They got that limestone from somewhere that was the same thing. So I have other pictures of that house, inside and outside. And then in the back, there was other buildings in the back that looked like the cobbler shop buildings. Yes?
I think they got the stone from the Blosser farm.
What's that?
They had a little quarry at the Blosser farm.
Oh, they did, yeah. Okay. He said they had a little quarry on the Blosser farm, which would be good because that's where they got the stones for the cemetery walls again. And I was at the cemetery yesterday, so one of your organizations needs to get in there and clean that cemetery up again. And the walls especially are just being taken over by ivy, and people have pushed the walls in some places.
How much of that house is logged?
What's that?
How much of that house was logged?
Much of it was lost.
How much?
How much? I don't know.
It would have to be logged.
It would have had been, yeah. It was vacant for many, many years before they did away with all this. When Ackley died, and Ackley lived in that trailer, I have a favorite story. Ackley broke away from his faith, He drove a truck and was a trucker, and he lived independent of his Mennonite family. Everett is here, I believe, right? As his brother is here with us today. So Ackley was, I don't know if you want to say the black sheep of the family or something like that. Is that fair?
I'm the black one, he was the brown one.
I'll remember that, Everett. So that house, I don't think that house, when it still existed, got the care and repair that it needed, because David and his family had to have lived some version of the house that was on that foundation to the big house, rather than just that copper shop. He couldn't have raised all those children in the copper shop. Think about it. In the barn, that's all gone. And you used to be able to get into the property from Route 42 or 10 Park Drive, and that's all blocked off now because you have to go up the side road and then Pear Street, and then you'll come into that housing development from the top of the hill. That's a cemetery when it looked really nice, with the two stones of David and Magdalene. We all recognize that place, I guess. I drove up Old Hill Road today, up and over to the back and back again, so I wouldn't get lost. How many know what the name of this formation is? Giant's Grave. Yep, my dad always showed me Giant's Grave as a kid when we came down here. By the way, my brother, who was born in 1928, he was born in the Harrisonburg Hospital when my folks were visiting down here. She gave birth to my brother.
His other name is Cooper's Mountain.
What's that?
Cooper's Mountain.
Cooper's Mountain.
Cooper's Mountain. Okay, Cooper's Mountain. All right, let's back up one here. This is Potter John's fired tablet for his daughter. This is when it was still in the Bank Church Cemetery when I took this picture. Then, for a while, since it was only one of two, I think, clay tombstones that were in existence that people knew about, they decided to remove it from the cemetery and replace it. It's been replaced. And in my memory, it was taken and put at EMU. Now, the ladies tell me here, it's here. EMU has rented to this institution, and that tombstone can be seen over there. Up here on the shelf, in that cardboard box and a couple containers, I have pottery shards from the Suter pottery and from the Huthwohl pottery, and take as many of those as you want, please. Take lots, take them all. You know, I visited that site 10, 15 times, you know. All my known relatives that visit me get pieces of it, you know. These are still pieces of it, so help yourself, please. People I've known in my tours of time, Dr. Jim, who was very active in the thing up on the hill, and Esther Bittinger, whose daughter married Dale, was it? David Lineweaver, couldn't be here today, but her sister, right?
Sister-in-law, yeah.
His sister-in-law is here, and she's taking a big section of my Lineweaver history, which might be built back to me. This is my grandfather and grandmother, and before my dad was born, as you could see, I had an Uncle Elmer. You saw this one before. Well, you don't vote. I'm aiming the wrong way here. Doesn't want to go. Let's see if I can back it up. Okay, let's go forward again. Doesn't want to go forward. Well, we're pretty near the end. Let me come around the front here. We're not transmitting. Technical challenge. This is the first time I've shown this program. This is my own projector, which I brought with me. So the work didn't have to be compatible with anything else. And guess what? Back to picture 100. That's the last picture on this. So I guess that's where we are, folks. If you have questions, I'm open to anything that you want to talk about. And you can come up here and look at things. A couple things need to be for sale, but most other things